Just what is it with episodic videos pertaining to abilities that you guys enjoy so much, like seriously? First it was badly designed abilities that popped off and then removed abilities, and now broken abilities no one complains about. It kinda feels like you guys would much rather I talk about abilities than champions half the time. I mean, not that I mind, it makes a good discussion. So you know what, I appreciate that you appreciate this series, and for today, we're gonna be doing part 3 of broken abilities no one complains about. I have another half dozen or so to go through, and just like last time, we're gonna be doing a mixture of utility and damage-oriented stuff. Also, by now it should be obvious, but I'm currently recovering from a pretty nasty flu, so if my voice sounds worse for wear, apologies, it should be gone by the next video. Anyway, let's not waste any more time and get right to the sauce. The interesting thing about periodic damage abilities or damage over time is that you never really notice just how much damage it does to you since it doesn't come all at once, and yet they're known for doing some of the most damage in the game in the right circumstance. For example, Morgana's Tormented Shadow is a pretty garbage ability in my humble opinion, but when you see the maximum damage it can do if someone's caught inside of it for the entire duration and at low HP, it is actually one of the highest damaging abilities in the game. Of course, it's balanced out by the fact that when does the opportunity to get the full damage ever happen? Tangent aside, let's get back to the matter at hand. If you ever wonder why Corki's able to blast your entire team into a million pieces despite seemingly not having the most DPS heavy build, it's actually not his Q nor his ultimate, it's Gatling Gun. Gatling Gun's one of the more subtle abilities in the game, but man do people forget just how powerful it is. Much like Rumble Q, Corki pumps out DPS in a cone towards his facing direction for a short while that racks up damage every quarter second, and Demon shreds armor and magic resist by a flat amount. Seems elementary at a glance, but take a look at what happens if Corki gets the opportunity to put lead on you for the entire 4 seconds. Get a load at that bonus AD ratio, 240%, one of the highest bonus AD ratios in the game on any non-ultimate ability. Yeah. Oftentimes, the most damaging part of Corki's rotation is Gatling Gun, not only shredding you for the equivalent of 20 armor penetration, but doing a metric ton of damage. For reference, Corki gets around 250 to 300 bonus AD late game, meaning a Z at max rank does potentially 1000 AoE damage. Of course, in a similar fashion to other abilities of the same variety, Corki loses out on damage anytime he has to turn away from his opponent, but even half the amount is a lot. Next time you're in range of Corki, do whatever it takes to force him to turn around or run away because that E hurts like a motherfucker. I noticed a lot of abilities in the series are those that look like they don't really do all that much until you realize exactly what they're meant to do and notice how meaningful of an impact that has on the entire match at large. Milio embodies that notion with this entire being. He's that one champion who looks like he does absolutely nothing but makes it damn near impossible for you to accomplish much of anything. And while each ability excels at that, what I think deserves most of the attention is Q, Ultra Mega Fire Kick. For such a seemingly innocuous ability, it is one of the best at what it does. Milio kicks a fireball in a direction that knocks back and stuns the first enemy hit before bouncing and plopping for damage in an area. What makes this ability so broken is that unlike other straight line skill shots that come with a root or stun or whatever, this one is accompanied by a knockback, giving it the extra property of interrupting any dash in the game. Remember Pantheon Shield Vault? Remember Samira Wild Rush? Yep, they suck now. Diana Luna Rush gone. Alistair Headbutt gone. Vayne Tumble garbage. Jarvan EQ get fucked. This one single tiny soccer ball looking ass ability can ruin entire enemy game plans by its very existence purely because if you have any desire to engage on Milio or his team with a dash of any kind that doesn't come with displacement immunity, that no longer works anymore. Basically, it's a hyper-consistent Howling Gale at the cost of only being able to disrupt one target. In addition to the 1 second knockback, it also comes with a 1.5 second slow in the area that scales with AP. Even 1 to 200 AP gets the slow to a staggering 80%. Speaking of ability power, for some reason, probably because it's his only damaging ability, it's also got a 120% AP ratio and 320 base damage. This move would be absolutely broken if it was on a mage. By the way, with how gentle the knockback is, you can even use it as a conventional lockdown tool. It can be used to engage or peel, making it overall one of the most annoying abilities in the game. I would much rather get hit by a Lux Q than a Milio Q, because at the very least if I dash onto a Lux, it completes the dash and then I get rooted at the endpoint. Milio though straight up ruins 90% of all dashes in the game basically on reaction. You would assume it's not all that strong given the whimsical and lighthearted animation and effects it has, but Milio flat out doesn't let you engage on him or his teammates unless you come at him from a weird angle. Yet another ability that doesn't look like it actually does a whole lot, but then you really think about what it does and realize why late game Karthus melts everyone to pieces. Everyone is quick to point to his passive, Q, ultimate, or even E for why he's a pain. But Wall of Pain, no pun intended, deserves recognition of its own. To start, it's a long-range linear area that heavily slows anyone caught in it, and when I say heavily, I mean heavily, 80% on contact. Further, the wall grows in size just like Anivia and Yasuo W with every point in it, enough to cover the entire length of lane. Placed in a proper location, enemies have no way of escaping without walking right through it, and when they do, for 5 seconds they lose 25% magic resist along with being much easier for Karthus to land his Q. The 25% MR Shred in particular carries this ability, considering most Karthus players often get Void Staff, which alone is 40% magic ban. Hypothetically, if you were to get 1 MR item, which would bump you to say 100 MR, Wall of Pain would immediately nerf that to 75, and then of that 75, Karthus would break through 40% of it, which give or take leaves you with 40 left. And with Zork Shoes, that's a flat 12 MR shredded, meaning your 100 MR goes to a measly 28 after all is said and done. Now imagine if you applied W to the entire team. The sheer gold advantage provided by Wall of Pain can easily cross into multiple thousands. Hardly anyone notices the MR shred portion because they're more focused on the slow component. Unless you're actively paying attention to your MR stat, you wouldn't know any better and think Karthus is just overpowered. You can thank his W for that, such a simple ability whose impact becomes enormous the later the game goes. What else we got? Let's talk about Teemo. No one complains about Teemo anymore these days. What happened to Teemo being the most hated champion in the game? Let me give you a reminder of the horrors of Mimo. Once again, mushrooms. Everyone hates Teemo for mushrooms, but do not forget the sheer stupidity of his Q, Blinding Dart. If ever there was an ability so effective at shutting down a certain archetype of champions, it would be this one. More than I would argue Jack's Counter-Strike, Neela Jubilant Veil, Shen Spirit Refuge, Teemo's Blinding Dart is one of the biggest middle fingers in the entire game. With a target range of 680 units, making it long enough for him to tag even 80 carries at a distance, Teemo is able to boop you for a big chunk of damage and then for up to 3 seconds cause all of your basic attacks to flat out miss. That means for 3 seconds, not only do your autos do no damage at all, and keep in mind for some champions their entire TPS comes in the form of autos, but any supplementary effects they may rely on to bolster their pressure also miss completely, which in turn can screw over their entire combo. If you're a top main and are still struggling with figuring out how to battle Zahen, pick Teemo, I beg you. Teemo straight up bends him over without any effort required. Blinding Dart prevents him from either regenerating HP with his Q1, knocking up enemies with Q2, and most importantly, because it's as if the auto attacks never went through, Zahen generates no stacks towards his passive, even though the auto attack is consumed. Same applies to any other champion. Teemo Q prevents Darius W from slowing or applying bleed stacks. A well-timed Q can block Jhin Force Shot, Leona Q stun, Camille Q2, Volibear Q, the list goes on and on. The reason I consider it better than Jax or Shen is because Teemo's a ranged champion. He can deny you more easily compared to Jax and Shen, who have to be in melee range of you. Moreover, Blinding Dart has a 3-second blind duration. Blinding an ADC for 3 seconds, you might as well just stun them for 3 seconds. Most of them can't do anything. If Teemo Q's a Master Yi, he goes from the most dangerous champion in the game to one of the least, and making matters worse, back in 11.21 they made it so Blinding Dart's missile speed became so fast, it's practically instantaneous. You can literally blind someone on reaction now. Good Teemo players will Q you right before you try to auto-attack a cannon minion. That's the kind of annoyance it carries. I would sooner face tank a mushroom than get hit by his Q. Okay, enough utility stuff for now. Let's quickly talk about a move that's good for the sake of just being good. Cho'gath is a champion known for having many incredibly powerful individual abilities that have a hard time functioning collectively. Not that he doesn't have combos, mind you, more that it would be nice to have a through line connecting all of them. But that doesn't stop them from being individually good. Everyone knows Rupture, everyone knows Feral Scream, and everyone especially knows Feast, but vorpal spikes are worthy of attention as well. Among all the auto attack empowerments, it is one of the strongest in the game, which I find funny because at one point it was awful. On a 4-second cooldown with only 30 mana cost at rank 5, Cho'gath's next 3 auto attacks deal bonus magic damage in a wave and slow all enemies hit. Compared to other auto attack buffs like Malphite W, Rek'Sai Q, which are meant to just give you better wave clear and perhaps a bit more on-hit damage, for some odd reason Vorpal Spikes was designed to help you 3-shot your target. If you were curious as to why all of a sudden Cho'gath players are taking Hail of Blades, that's because the one thing balancing his E is that ordinarily he attacks really slowly. Front-loading all 3 hits of Vorpal Spikes truly brings to focus just how insane this ability is. It does Riven Q levels of damage all at once. 300 base plus 90% ability power, already fantastic right there, but then it does 11.7% max health damage on its own plus an additional 1.5% per stack of Feast. With Cho'gath being able to score 6 stacks at minimum from minions and monsters, in total, a triple volley of his E does no less than 20% max health damage. With every stack of feast he acquires, he just does more and more damage. One time I played a game where my Cho'gath had 20 stacks of feast. He was doing literally 40% max health damage every 4 seconds. It was insane. Not to mention, this is AoE damage. He can apply this to multiple members of the enemy team. It is by far one of the strongest auto-attack empowerments in the game by sheer DPS potential, and as a reminder, by rank 5 it has only a 4-second cooldown and 30 mana cost. So next time you're wondering why Cho'gath does so much f***ing damage before he even uses his ultimate, it's this move. I remember his used to be so garbage back when it was a toggle ability, but now this move is genuinely the scariest thing in his kit, even more than his ultimate. Next ability I want to talk about is actually going to be an ultimate. For most champions, the ultimate is the keystone ability in their repertoire. If ever there was an ability to complain about in any champion, it would be that. But ever since he came out, Hwei was always characterized by each of his abilities being decent. Not bad, but not great. In exchange for having 9 basic abilities, they're all meant to be relatively mild in comparison to similar abilities of their kind. Wouldn't it be too fair for one of his 3 Qs to be as strong as a different mage's Q? As such, hardly anyone has anything inflammatory to say about his kit, but I for one think we need to look into his ultimate. Spiraling Despair at a glance doesn't appear to be the most game-breaking ultimate in the game, certainly not compared to other big teamfight ultimates out there. It doesn't do the highest damage and it comes with no hard crowd control, but that doesn't make it any less impactful of an ability. Upon tagging an enemy champion, a circle expands from their position that grows in size, during which all enemies in the circle, including the original target, get hit with a ramping slow that quickly brings them to the minimum speed threshold. The effect holds out for 3 full seconds, essentially being a massive AoE slow that grinds your team's momentum to a halt before exploding for big damage. What I've grown to appreciate about Spiraling Despair is that while its effects may not be immediate, if you think about it, getting hit by this move essentially marks you and other nearby immobile champions for death. The damage itself is quite significant. You're basically tanking an Orianna shockwave right to the face. But the ramping slow, that's what makes this ability so good. I don't care if you're Udyr, Hecarim, or Quinn and you're cruising around the map at 700 move speed. Once you get hit by Spiraling Despair, your tempo gets totally annihilated and you're stuck with that loss of tempo for a painful 3 seconds, making it super easy for Hwei and the rest of his team to tag you with anything in their kit with ease. Moreover, again, this can apply onto multiple members of the enemy team at once. If you're all close to each other, Hwei can apply an AoE slow followed by a devastating nuke afterwards to blast your entire team. The next time you wonder why it feels like you can't move in a teamfight, chances are it's Hwei and this ability. I'm gonna be honest, I was mildly disappointed by his ultimate when I first saw it way back then, but after being on the receiving end of a late game Hwei ultimate a couple times, this move is criminally underrated. Final ability for the video. God damn, my voice is really killing me. If you're wondering why I'm not just waiting until I feel better to record, I just don't want to fall too far behind. Anyway, Jinx's E, Flame Choppers. I hate this ability. I hate it so much. It's like an overpowered Caitlyn trap. The funny thing is, this used to be a pretty lousy ability initially because it took over a second to actually arm, more than enough time for Jinx to get one-shotted by the enemy assassin or diver. And while it still does take a while to get ready, one small change given to her back in 11.3 turned this into one of the best peel tools an AD carry could ask for. A very simple premise. She tosses out a couple choppers that, if you touch it, will root you for 1.5 seconds. Basically, Caitlyn Yordle's snap trap that Jinx can deploy 3 of immediately at the cost of not lasting for a long time. But that aforementioned buff it got in 11.3 made all the difference. In that update, Flame Choppers were given the additional property to knock enemies down before rooting them. Recall that earlier in the video I mentioned how the fact that Milio's Ultra Mega Fire Kick makes it really difficult to engage on him since he can interrupt dashes. Same rule applies here. You can no longer dash through Flame Choppers. That makes it one of the best peel tools in the game for an ADC by forcing anyone who wants to kill her to find an alternate route, which may very well not be possible due to Flame Choppers being wide enough to block most pathways in the jungle. If anything, Flame Choppers going from a minor inconvenience to outright screwing over your chances of killing Jinx is a testament to how valuable disruption crowd control is. Again, back in the day, if you were playing Kha'Zix, Talon, Rengar, Jax, or whomever, you would get rooted by dashing through choppers, but you would still make it to Jinx and be able to blow her to pieces. Now though, her little munchies would stop you dead in your tracks, giving you free time to nail you with their minigun or rocket launcher. It's like a Veigar cage on an ADC. Or not like, it is a Veigar cage on an ADC. I'm gonna be honest, I'm enjoying this series more and more because it's a convenient excuse for me to bitch about abilities that I personally hate, even though on paper and in practice, they're frankly not the most offensive things out there. Once again, let me know in the comments down below if you have any of your own. And if you enjoyed the video despite the way I sounded, I would appreciate it if you love to like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Vars, join my Discord server, and check out my previous 2 episodes on the series if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.